Can you see me and hear me? Anybody? Let me know if you can get this. Hello, everybody. I'm talking. Hope this works. Okay, Peter can. Yes. Okay, Praveen is seeing live stream offline. Okay, awesome. Great. Everybody, this is so great. Thanks for your patience. I've never been more excited to do a webinar in my life. I haven't done a webinar of this nature in maybe 6 months. And so I'm excited for it. I've never done a webinar on this topic either. So I'm just excited that we're all here today talking about the agency business. And I really hope that you find this to be helpful, useful, that you can learn a lot in this, because we are going to be talking about the top 10 mistakes that agency owners and freelancers make when they're going through their business. And these are things that I've learned and culled, if you will, from years and years of being in this industry, in this business. And so I'm going to be on screen maybe for a little bit, but actually most of the time it's going to be me sharing with you this presentation. So I'm going to hop right into that presentation. And Marco, yeah, if you can see the presentation now on my screen. Shouldn't be me anymore. It should be me talking, and it should be a presentation on the screen. So if anybody can just chime in with the heck yeah, that would be wonderful. Yes. Okay. Yes. All right. Great. Thanks, everybody. Okay. Peter can see. Awesome, everybody. So like I said, this is probably the most excited I've been to do a webinar maybe ever in my life. And that's because I want to talk about something that's near and dear to my heart. I want to talk about the top 10 mistakes that freelancers and agencies make in their business. And this is both the mistakes that I've personally made along the way, as well as mistakes that I've seen others make and either help them through it or saw it and then they didn't get helped through it. Actually, it happened too late. They couldn't get help and they couldn't make positive changes in their business. So it's both, things that, from a perspective of things that you shouldn't do, but also things that you need to detect early in order to have some kind of impact on what you're doing. So let's go through it. Okay, so before we get started, just make sure you pay close attention. I know there's a lot of distractions out there. Turn off your phone, close your Facebook, go somewhere quiet, put in your earbuds if you can, open your mind, make sure you ask questions because those will come back later and we'll answer all your questions and take notes. Now, the goal of this presentation is I want to teach you the proven methods that will consistently produce long-term business value and predictable and scalable results for your business. That's what this is really all about, is creating predictable and scalable results for your business as a freelancer or as an agency owner, because those things aren't mutually exclusive. You can basically be a freelancer today and an agency in the future, or you could be somebody who has an agency and never even did the freelancing piece. There's many different ways to go about going into business for yourself. And really, I just want to make sure that when you do go into business for yourself, or if you're already in that situation, that you're maximizing what you're doing and you're not getting burned. Now, just a little bit about me. I'm Jeff Sauer. You've seen the emails from me. That's probably why you're here right now. You've gotten the notes from me. And I'm regarded as a top PPC analytics expert. I'm a partner in one of the fastest growing agencies in the United States. We did that 5 times, as I mentioned. I'm also an adjunct marketing professor at the University of St. Thomas, which is the Minneapolis campus in Minnesota in the United States. And I'm also an international speaker. So I know a lot of you who are on this call have actually gotten my information or seen me on the speaking circuit. I know some of you have seen me in India, Australia, and all parts of the world. So I love to go around and teach people how to become better marketers. And now I'm teaching people how to become better agency owners and business owners. Now, my agency has worked with many household names over the years. So depending on where you're located, you might recognize some of these companies. And actually, I could put several more logos on here as well, because I've worked with many Fortune 500 companies to deliver analytics, PPC, SEO, social media, those types of programs to very, very large companies. And working with companies of this size, with big budgets and with all the different challenges and fun pieces that go with these types of businesses, has really formed a lot of my experiences and my opinions of how to go about providing services to companies. So I've had to learn from both big companies and small companies the nuances of navigating their situations and then using their nuances and using their situations and how they operate to maximize the value for my own business. And so it's nice to be able to work with big companies, but you also need to know how to work with big companies and keep your cash flow going, to keep your business afloat, because just getting the logo on your wall is not the same as being a successful business. Now, before we get started, a few housekeeping items. One, submit your questions into the chat window as you have them. There's a little question button. You can do the chat piece, or you can do a raise your hand for a question. We will answer questions towards the end because I'm in full screen mode right now, so I can actually see all your questions as they come in. I will check on that occasionally as we go forward, but make sure you get them into the chat window, and basically we'll address them in the order that they're received. And also stick around to hear about our newest bonuses, because I'm really excited about them. There's a bonus that I have not told anybody about that's going to be announced at the end of this webinar. So if you stick around, you're going to get notice of this bonus that has never been announced to anybody. And we're also going to give you a preview of what's in the Agency Jumpstart course. So once we get through our 10 mistakes that agency owners make, then we're going to give you a preview of the Agency Jumpstart course. We're going to dig in and tell you what it's all about. So what are the top 10 mistakes that freelancers and agency owners make when they're growing their business? Now, these aren't necessarily in any particular order, but the ordering is sort of how I've come across these. And so what that means is that the order, the first thing we talk about is one of the first mistakes that I made or that I came across and had to solve. And so let's go right into it. The first mistake I wanted to talk about is when an agency goes forward, they start their business, they start doing well, but they have no lead generation strategy whatsoever. And so they might find success with a single client, which we've been calling an anchor client in our agency workshop. But then, and they might get a few referrals here and there, but once the referrals start to run dry, they're not able to bring in consistent business. And so what happens with a lot of business owners is they get really busy with their business and they don't focus on lead generation. They stop going out to networking events. They stop following up with potential clients. They stop going out there because they're so busy with the current business that they don't have time or the desire to bring on new business. But the problem is that if you squeeze on your pipeline, so your business pipeline is something that's flowing with leads, people who are coming in that want to work with you. If you squeeze that for any point in time, then you lose your momentum. It's basically like a flywheel. I'm not sure if you've heard of the concept of the flywheel, but business development is like a flywheel. It takes a while to get going. You might go and talk to 100 people and get one quality lead or no quality leads when you first get started. But over time, when you plant enough seeds and when you have enough momentum, it's really hard to stop that train. Now, what ends up happening is a small freelancer business or a small agency, they think that if they have one good client, they should just stop business development because they don't want to have any more work or they don't want to have too much work. And that's a mistake. It just takes too long to get your business development going when you actually need it. And so if you turn off the gas, if you take your feet off the gas in your business early on, it's going to take way longer to find new clients whenever you need them, whenever you're ready for that. And so that's really a mistake, is to have no strategy. The reason why is, like I said earlier, agency relationships are like planting seeds. You never know when a conversation is going to turn into something. And so most of your conversations are not going to turn into something, but if it takes hundreds of times talking to somebody in order to get a result, you want to get those 100 at-bats as quickly as you can. And you need to be strategic about building leads for your business. Otherwise, things are going to run dry. You can't do something where you're really gung-ho on business development for 1 month of the year, and then the other 11 months you do nothing, because you won't have much left when you really need business. And the truth is, you can never have too many inquiries. You can never have too many potential leads. And if you're too busy with your current workload, then charge more, right? If you have too many clients going on right now and you don't really know what to do with your current number of clients, then start charging them more, either your existing ones or your future ones. And then if they think it's too expensive, they'll move on. But now you have the right group of people that you're working with. So get that lead generation strategy in place. Having too many leads is the best problem you can have. This is something that was taught to me a long time ago by my father. He said, Don't worry about having too much business. It's the best problem you could ever have. You can always hire somebody to handle the business if you think you have too much. Having money in the door is the key to the agency world. Now, another mistake that I see agencies make and freelancers is that they provide too many services. Now, those of you who were watching our videos before the course launched, video number 2 was talking about this, is that I offered 25 different services for my one-person company. It's the quintessential jack of all trades, master of none. Now, it makes us feel big when we can offer a lot of services. It makes us feel important, but it has the opposite effect on clients. It basically overwhelms our prospects. Not only that, it also overwhelms employees, your project managers, and basically everybody else in the organization by doing too much. It's better for your business and for your profits to focus on doing fewer things and doing them better. Now, one way that I would do this in a sales environment was basically I would go in with a pitch deck where I would try selling somebody on my services, and we would have the different services we provide in our back pocket, but we would only go in depth on the 1 or 2 things that we thought they need. So we would start our business development process with a discovery call with a client where we would say, hey, what are you looking for? What might you need? What are your biggest problems right now? And then when we go in and we pitched them, we wouldn't say, here's the 25 things we can do. We would say, here's the 2 things we can do to help you right now. And if you like working with us in the future, we can do a lot more for you too. And that really got us a much better reception in doing that. And the same thing goes for your case studies, your website offerings. Basically, instead of giving a buffet list of items, provide people with a solution. And basically, that's the premise of the second one is if in the agency jump course, I have a saying the agency jumpstart course, there's a saying that I have that's basically solutions always. Always provide solutions. That's what service providers are paid to do. That's what we're paid to do as agencies, freelancers, anybody who is providing a service to somebody else is to provide them with a solution. So your services are always solutions. Okay, moving on. Not setting expectations with your clients. So what does your client expect when they sign a contract with you? Do they expect to get everything under the sun when you're only prepared to offer them a sliver of the moon? Are you overpromising and under-delivering? Are you under-promising and delivering quality every time? Are they happy about what they get? What does your client expect for you to provide them? And is it even possible for you to provide it? Are you going to go broke providing it? Are you going to go insane providing it? Now, the easiest time to set expectations with your client is before they become your clients. Because once that contract is signed, you're legally obligated to work with somebody and your relationship changes. Your expectations change as you sign a contract. Now, I see so many agencies write statements of work that they regret just a few weeks later when it comes time to deliver the project to the client. Have you ever gotten caught in this trap yourself? Is this something that you've had happen where you have somebody sign a contract and then you try to deliver on what's in the contract and you're like, wow, this doesn't reflect at all what we thought we were doing for the client? Happens all the time. Now, savvy agency owners, they know how to develop statements of work that put their company first. Put your company first so you're not going to get burned. And if you aren't sure where to start, this is something that we provide a checklist of how to do in the Agency Jumpstart course as well. All right, our fourth area that we're talking about is know that agencies make a mistake by having no customer relationship management strategy or client relationship, whatever you want to call it. There's no strategy to maintain that relationship. Now, here's the deal. The agency business is a service business. Service businesses run on relationships. Being a subject matter expert is nice, but at the end of the day, that doesn't matter nearly as much as how you're feeling. That doesn't matter nearly as much as how your client feels about working with you. How does your client feel about working with you? For those of you who have already started your agency or if you're freelancing, how do these people feel about working with you? Do they get excited to talk to you? Is it a burden? Do they answer your calls? How do they feel about working with you? And are you too busy doing the work to even know? Do you even know how they feel about working with you? Are you putting in the work to keep that relationship going? Because guess what? You get your dollars as an agency owner, as an agency or freelancer, you get your money based on the relationships. And if that relationship goes sour, Same with the cash train, right? You're not going to be making nearly as much money, or you might not even have that client anymore if you can't build a relationship. Now, the key here is if you're not good at this, or if you don't want to do this, then you need to find somebody who can do it for you, because relationships are a currency in the agency business. And you don't want to find yourself bankrupt by not addressing it. So whether you want to be good at that currency or you want to hire somebody, very important to address it. Another mistake that agencies make, they're only focused on delivering the work. And this piggybacks on our fourth point. Only being focused on delivering work to your clients, it becomes counterproductive, because you need to listen to your clients, you need to hear their needs, and you need to make adjustments to fit their business strategy. The thing is that doing A+ work doesn't really matter if it's the wrong work. If your client doesn't know what you're doing or delivering for them, if they can't find the value or they don't feel good about it, then they're not going to feel good about paying you in the future either. So don't focus only on delivering things, in a textbook way or in a way that you read online, you need to do this stuff. Focus on the solution that the client looks for. Okay, so we're halfway there. I'm going to go look at the chat right now, see if anything's coming in. I don't see any chat things coming in. Take a little drink of water here. How's everybody doing? I know we're going through this quickly because I want to make sure you get all the value and all the action that we want to pack into this webinar. So if you're doing all right, give me a heck yeah, or just tell me that you're enjoying this, that you learned something new. Awesome, everybody. Great. Jan's there. Peter's good. John's there. He's learning. Great. I'm glad you guys are all learning. I'm a little bit out of breath. Like I said, I'm a little rusty from the webinars, but hopefully, or I'm a little rusty in webinars. Alex, there will be a replay. There is something that's exclusive only to this webinar, though, so you're going to want to make sure that you follow along now for the exclusive offer we have in this webinar. Great. Well, I'm excited that you all are listening along, and I'm great to see everything coming in here. Let's get to number 6. So another mistake that I see agencies making is that they're afraid to cut losses with their bad clients. Bad clients are the bane of the agency's existence. Now, have you ever received a call from a client on a Friday afternoon or a Saturday morning, or a text message? I used to get text messages from my bad clients, and it ruined my whole weekend. Have they ever requested that you did 40 hours of work to be completed first thing Monday morning? Does your work never feel good enough for these clients? Do you have somebody who you're paying pennies and they expect millions of dollars worth of work? Do your clients have no respect for your time, your expertise, or your need to get paid? Then they're not the right client for you. I hate to say it, but if you experience any of those things, if you feel like your self-esteem has gone down because somebody thinks that they own your life because they're paying you money, then that's the wrong client, and that's going to hurt your business more than it helps. Because guess what? It's going to take all of your mental energy to deal with this bad client, and that's mental energy you won't be putting into your good clients or into focusing on your business. And so you want to fire them. Most people are afraid to fire your clients. Really, it sounds bad, doesn't it, to fire your bad clients, to get rid of somebody, to sacrifice revenue? But agencies that have great business development, going back to point number 1, if you have great business development, then I say fire away, because there's multiple other clients who would want to work with you. Now, if you think you have a bad client on your hands, I created a checklist in the Agency Jumpstart course where you can give them a grade. Basically, you answer a series of questions, and then I'll give you a grade to say whether they're an A+ client or if they're an F client. And if they're an F client, then you want to use the word F as in fire them from your business. And so if you're interested in that checklist, stick around and we'll show you how you can get a hold of that as well. Another agency problem, and this is a big one. This happens often later in the agency business once you lose clients or when things don't happen how you want them to. Agencies fail because they don't have positive cash flow. They're basically paying out more money than they're receiving from their clients. And this is a big problem because cash flow is everything in the agency business. It's how you make sure you can pay your vendors, your employees, and most importantly, you. But how much cash flow do you need for your agency? It's actually a lot more than you think. My company, we floated $1 million accounts receivable bill from our clients. And we did that for 10 months. We were owed $1 million for almost an entire year. And we were able to survive. Our company was able to survive, even though they were owed us a ton of money. And we lived to tell about it. Now, is your agency able to do that? Would you be able to float $1 million accounts receivable? Now, I don't recommend that you even have to, right? If you're in that situation, then that means that you have a big client who's not paying on time or they're playing games with you. But if you have cash flow projections and you understand how cash flow works, you can absorb that and you can still run your agency and you can still do well. We talk a lot in the agency course about how do you make sure that you get paid on time? How do you adjust the terms in your statements of work so you're getting paid at an interval that's reasonable? How do you make sure that you don't sign a contract where you can't get paid? Because guess what? I've been there. I've actually had contracts, and it's sad to admit this, but I've had contracts within the last 10 years where it took over a year to get paid. And that's because I didn't do a very good job of locking things down. I didn't do a very good job of representing my company at the sales table because I just wanted that sale. And now I've learned that's not a good idea. It's not great for cash flow. It's not great for anything in your business. And I want to teach that to you as well. So hopefully you can understand you want to have positive cash flow. Otherwise, the agency can go under much more quickly than you think. Even if you're doing great work, even if you're doing good by your clients, bad things can happen if you're not careful. Another thing you can do that you can do wrong is not tracking business metrics. Is your agency profitable? I know a lot of people who have client retainers who are paying them $30,000, $50,000 a month, and they're spending it as quickly as they can. They can't cash flow. They can't even pay off their minimum credit card payments because they actually think that all that money in the door is immediately the same thing as profit. It's not. Profit's very different than cash in the door. You can't put the money out the door as quickly as it comes in and expect to be profitable. But a lot of people don't even establish a budget for their agency to know that. They don't know the answer of whether they're going to be profitable or not. So ask yourself this: what happens if you lose a client? Are you ready now to hire more employees if you get a big contract? How does that work? Many business owners can't answer these questions, so they just sort of wing it with their business. They think that if there's money in the bank or if there's a contract, that it's all going to be taken care of. Well, smart agency owners, they're data-driven. They make sure they track all their key business metrics. They have spreadsheets, they have templates, frameworks, they have all kinds of things they can use in order to track whether or not the business is successful or not. Because actually, a contract is not the same thing as a successful business. A commitment from somebody to pay you is not the same as getting paid. So there's a big difference between these things. And metrics is what helps you understand how your business is doing. Much like me, I'm Jeffalytics. I do analytics consulting for a lot of clients, a lot of different industries. I need to do the same level of analytics for my own business to make sure it's successful. But as I talked about earlier, sometimes subject matter experts only want to do the work. We only want to do the things that we think we're good at, the skills that we've developed. That's different than being a successful business owner. Being a subject matter expert does not immediately make you a good business owner. And in fact, if you don't know anything about business, it makes you a bad business owner, most likely. So make sure you use some metrics to track how your business is doing, much like you recommend metrics to your clients. All right, we're getting close to the end of these. The ninth mistake is waiting too long to put business structure in place. And this is another one where I'm going to admit to you that I did things the wrong way. I should have put business structure in place when we had 3-5 employees at my agency. And because right after we got to that point, we hit the momentum, we hit the accelerator on our business, and we went from 5 people to 45 people in the course of 2 years. And yes, I wish that we would have put a better structure in place at 5 people, because then 45 would have been much easier to handle. We were just basically drinking from a fire hose, taking all the revenue and all the profits we could get from the business. And then when we look back, we're like, man, we should have put this in place much more quickly, because it's harder to change something when you have 45 people on the payroll than when you have 5. And so if you're just getting started, if you're just on the fence about whether you want to start an agency or not, it's probably a good idea to have an idea. It's probably a good idea to know what your structure should be. So you can do stuff like come up with an org chart template. And in your org chart, it might just be you right now, but then every time you add somebody to the company, you can keep on adjusting that, making it better. Basically, establish organizational structures and business structures early and then update it often, at least once a year. Because if you wait until you're bursting at the seams, it's a lot harder to fix. It's a lot harder to fix and undo things at 45 people than it is at 5 people or 2 people, whatever that number might be. Okay, our final one, not having legal agreements in place with your business partners. And this one hits close to home as well. But what I'll say to this is that a business relationship, a partnership, if you will, is like a marriage. And splitting it up can be messier than even a divorce because you're legally tied to somebody. And that means that a verbal agreement is never enough for your business. You need an ironclad partnership agreement that addresses your past, your present, and the future of your agency. Past, how you got there, the present, what you're doing now, and then the future, what happens when this thing ends? What is your exit strategy for your business? You need to talk about how somebody can invest in the company, how they get shares, how they divest in the company, what happens in the event of a tragedy, what happens when if you experience a windfall and you sell your agency, where does that money go? Now, it's easier to sort these things out early in your business than it is years down the line, much like in point number 9. So you want to get these things in place before you become successful, because if you don't do it beforehand, if you don't know what you're looking for, it costs a lot of money to fix it later on. We're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars. And I'm not throwing around numbers like $100,000 lightly. My agency has spent hundreds of thousands of dollars paying lawyers, accountants, tax professionals, basically anybody who provides business services. We've paid them a lot of money to undo and to fix things that we should have done earlier. A lot easier to do these things at 2 people, 5 people, than it is to do it at 45. You just have to trust me on that one. Now, yes, you've probably guessed by now that since I've gone through these myself, I spend quite a bit of time walking through these things in the Agency Jumpstart course as well. Now, are you making these mistakes? That's really a question you can ask yourself. Are you making them? How many of them? And if you're a brave person, you can even say in the comments which ones you've made and whether this is helpful and how you're going to solve it. How might you solve these mistakes in the future? Because most of these things aren't undoable. You can undo these things. And if you're early on in the process, you can do it much more quickly. I mean, the main reason why I put together the agency workshop, which you've all been following along with over the last 2 weeks, is to help you not make these mistakes, especially if you're early in your process. And the reason why we put together the Agency Jumpstart course, which is the companion to that workshop, the full out program, is because there's a lot more to know than I can even teach you in the course of this hour. There's multiple hours, and even consider, even years of things that you need to learn to run a successful business. And that's why the Agency Jumpstart course exists. It's designed to help you through all these things. It's designed to give you not just the theory, but also the practical applications you can use to get through these things, and also to give you the coaching and the support you need ongoing to be able to have your questions answered by somebody who's gone through it before, and not just somebody, multiple people, a group of peers who are going through this at the same time as you. Now, I know that I've covered a lot of information, and I know that at times new information can be overwhelming. I get overwhelmed by these things all the time. And at this point, you basically have 3 options to deal with this piece of growth in your business. Now, it really depends on where you're at in your business right now, but I think we all pretty much have the same 3 options. And if you looked at the page that I sent out yesterday, I go through these options and I tell you how I dealt with them. The first thing is, and this is what I did, is I tried to figure it out myself. I'm stubborn. I would search on Google for answers to my questions, like, can I afford to add new employees? And then I'd see 100 different results, and it wouldn't really make sense because it wasn't refined to my industry. I'd go to conferences and rub elbows with people, other business owners, and ask them the same questions. And I'd spend time on the phone with my accountant and my attorney. My accountant, I think he charged me like $400 an hour, and he would spend an hour just talking about himself before I could even ask the question. It's like, man, I wasted a lot of money trying to get an answer, but he did give the answer, and now I know. Now I know what I'm looking for. So you can spend a lot of hours, you can spend a lot of time trying to figure this thing out on yourself, and you might get there. I got there. I'm there right now. I figured it out myself. I had some support, but it took me 5 to 10 years to get to the point where I know how to run a successful agency business. If you want to get there sooner, there's other options. Another thing you can do is you can hire a business coach. Now, my company hired a business coach. This guy's name is Mike Payton, and he wrote a book on how to structure a business, right? He's a very successful consultant. He charges $6,000 a day. We go into his office. It's in Edina, let's call it Edina or St. Louis Park, somewhere around there in the Minneapolis-St. Paul area. We'd go in there. He charges $6,000 a day, and basically he'd be like a therapist to our business. He'd help us put structure in place. He helped us workshop things, move things around. But basically, we had a coach who helped our business find what we needed to do. We use him 8 times in a year, so $48,000 with this coach to get us to a certain point. And it was worth it. This guy was totally worth it to spend that much money. Now, I do wish that I would have done these things earlier, because it wouldn't cost $48,000. It would cost just a couple $1,000s if I would have addressed these things earlier in the process. But we waited too long, and that's why we had to use a business coach. And then the third option, which I think is a smart choice, is to make an investment in your business today. And as you can probably guess, the investment that I'm talking to you about is investing in my agency jumpstart course, which basically takes the equivalents of 1 and 2, a lot of the trial and error, and it saves you from having to do that yourself. So you can focus on the most important piece of your business, which is growth, which is having a business that's there to talk about in the future, having a business that you know what your profit goals are. You know how you can scale something. You know how you can grow a business to the point where it supports the lifestyle you want to have, where it doesn't take up all your time, but it does bring in the revenue levels that you're looking to get to the point where you have certain revenue or certain income, whatever you want to call it. We call it income as a freelancer, and then we call it revenues as an agency, because the agency usually has more than one person. And so you call it revenues at that point. And trust me, this is the smart choice, because it saves you a lot of the hassle that you'd go through doing this on your own. And it's at a price point where it's affordable, especially if you're selling services to other companies, and you can get some sales as a result of what you've learned in this course by niching down, by doing all the things we've talked about. Of course, there's a lawnmower that just walked past me. So I'm going to take this second to take a look at the chat and see how you're doing here. Can you hear that on the background, everybody? Isn't that, it's like a 747's taking off right in front of me. So just take this second for a breather. And I will get to everybody's questions in just a moment here. So just want to make sure that everybody knows that I will be getting to your questions. I'm just walking through this presentation at this point. It doesn't sound like any of you can hear the lawnmower, so let's move on to the presentation. So I can streamline the learning curve for you with my step-by-step blueprint for success, and I'm going to share with you my entire box of tools for running an agency. And we do that in the Agency Jumpstart course. It's the key to your agency's growth. Now, you've seen me talking about the agency course so far. A lot of you have been to the page where the shopping cart page and looked at it. But I wanted to describe to you the benefits of signing up for this course. So what do you get? Basically, you get everything. 10+ year career running a wildly successful agency. 5 years in a row, we were one of the fastest growing companies in the United States. It's not very easy to achieve. I was like, maybe we'll do this for 1 year. And then every year we're like, well, we qualify again. We are still growing faster than just about every company in the United States. It's pretty amazing. And so you're going to get everything that I learned during this process. We start with talking about the fundamentals of your agency. That's the first topic we cover. And this goes through things like your agency's finance, finances, choosing a niche, models for revenue, like what type of business model you want. Some of these things we talk about in our agency workshop, and we just go into more depth here. We go into significantly more depth in the agency jumpstart course because we have more time. We talk about business development. How do you create demand? How much should you charge? How do you find your next client? How do you test the market? And then how do you close deals? We talk about filling your funnel, using inbound lead generation, understanding how clients budget and how you can get more of their budget by using their budget cycles to your advantage. The website for your agency, how to develop long-term relationships, because really this is a long game. This is a long-term game. And how do you avoid bad clients? We talked about that earlier. How do you avoid these bad clients and how do you see them coming from a mile away? How do you onboard new clients to make sure that you're setting expectations for them? How do you implement project management? How do you implement account management? How do you forecast your revenue and how does it impact cash flow? And then how do you do a contract and a statement of work? How do you protect yourself, right? The whole point of these things is to protect your agency's best interests in the contract. We spend a lot of time in the course talking about that. How do you grow your agency with people? When should you hire an employee or when should you hire an independent contractor? How do you become a subcontractor for another agency yourself, or how do you bring in subcontractors to get the work done for you? How do you find talent? How do your employees help with business development? And then how do you get good relationships with your employees? How do you maintain them? My agency was the best place to work in the Twin Cities area. We've won that award several times because we put our employees first. We create great relationships with our employees and they love working at the agency. And that's how we win those awards. Show you exactly how we got to that point in the course. How do you plan out your business? For example, what's your agency's roadmap? How do you decide if you're going to bring in partners into your business? What business types should you take? And what are the tax implications? This is like the legal business structure you should put in place. We talk about that quite a bit. Who's the leaders in your agency? How do you establish leadership in your company? And then how do you set yourself up for exiting your business? From a business operations standpoint, what is your personnel structure? How do you do long-term customer development? What is your core service offering? How do you plan for revenue coming in? And then how do you handle day-to-day management of all of this? How do you make sure that you are hitting your goals on a daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, annual, and even a 5-year basis? We go through all of those things in the course. And then the last thing, it's probably my favorite title, it's don't get your butt kicked. Because my agency has gotten its butt kicked from doing the wrong things. And I've seen even more agencies do the wrong things. So how do you make sure that you don't lose money, that you don't have to lay out, that you don't have to do the wrong things? I give many cautionary tales in our final topic of the course to make sure that you don't make the same mistakes that hundreds of agency owners have done on their own. And the students love this course. Alvaro is one of my star students, basically saying that he learns it because it's actionable. You can take action with all the handouts you get. And he said this, these are his words, not mine, but he says that the course can save tens of thousands of dollars of making mistakes in the future. And if you make big mistakes, it can be hundreds of thousands of dollars. And I agree with that because I have wasted hundreds of thousands of dollars in some of the mistakes we made early on in our process. And I wish I could have changed that, right? I wish I could have had that money in my pocket and not paid it to a lawyer, not paid it to an accountant. But the reality is that it made us stronger in the end, and it set us up for even more profits in the future, having gone through these things. Now, I don't want you to have to go through those. I want you to start things off on the right foot and to implement these things early in your process of your agency business. And here's another one from Fred. Basically, he's saying that it's the best investment you can make in yourself. Now, Fred has an agency that's very successful. They have 30 plus employees and they're very profitable. He's the CFO of his agency, so he knows a lot about the finance piece. And I had him help me with some of the curriculum on how to handle the finances of an agency. So everything was vetted by a CFO. Actually, it was vetted by several financial professionals in the process of this course because I wanted to make sure we were given the right advice, and not just advice that I've learned from the School of Hard Knocks, but also advice from real accredited schools as well. people who have graduated with advanced degrees from really, really quality universities have input into here. And they've told us exactly how this thing works. We've had lawyers, tax professionals, accountants have all reviewed this and given us a lot of value in the process. So if you act today, here's what you get in the agency course. My toolbox of workbooks and checklists. Now this toolbox has 25 plus workbooks, checklists, PDFs, downloadable things, fillable spreadsheets, all kinds of things that you can use to measure your business efforts and understand how your business is doing. Now it's hard to say 25 plus and understand what this really means, but we're talking about some stuff that like it took years and years for me to develop, and these things are all available. Basically, we have 40 lessons on the Agency Jumpstart course, and the majority of them have some kind of download that accompanies the lessons. So you get the theory from the video, but then you also get the action by downloading something specifically focused on what we talk about in that section of the course. You also get the group coaching calls. So these things are going to be 12 monthly coaching calls where you're going to be able to talk to me and several other hundreds even of business owners and entrepreneurs, and you're going to be able to talk about whatever's on your mind. Actually, the format will be similar to this, where we'll go through a lesson and then you get to ask your questions and we'll talk through all your questions. And you get a whole year of this and support from me as a result of signing up for the course. So a lot of people are concerned about whether their business is ready for this yet. Well, if you learn how to get sales going, which we'll talk about in just a moment here, and then you get your feet off the ground, yeah, you'll absolutely be able to benefit from taking this course. And it's going to make your next year the best year yet. And you get the Agency Success Guide, which we're putting together, and it basically gives our favorite tips for running a successful agency. So this is one of those things where you can refer to it over and over again throughout your journey and make sure that you're set up for success. So if you want a constant reminder as to how things should be moving, how things should be going forward, this is going to be something that will be along with you for the entire ride. Now, this course is easily worth $10,000. I can say that with a straight face and tell you that it's easily worth $10,000, definitely even much more than that, knowing how much I spent in order to get this knowledge and to accumulate this knowledge with my own journey. But that's not what we're going to do. During this webinar, we're going to be giving you a much better price. Now, a typical consulting relationship, at least $6,000 per day. I talked about my experience working with Mike Payton, who is our consultant, and people have these consultants all over the world who will teach you your business and help you with your business. But we're talking about a lot of money. But you're not going to be paying anywhere near those numbers for the agency course today, because I've severely underpriced the program for you because I'm looking to help you grow a successful agency, and I want to make this a no-brainer for you. I don't want price to get in the way of your success. And so while I could sell this for $10,000, this week only, the price for the Agency Jumpstart course is $1,997. And it packs so much value in it. Now, I know some of you still think this might be an expensive amount, but knowing how much you can charge as a consultant and how much money you can make with the knowledge you gain here, and knowing how this knowledge that I had would have helped my company generate even more than the millions of profits we already generated, this is actually quite the bargain when you think about it. When you think about how this is going to affect your potential and your future business, it really is a no-brainer when it comes down to that perspective. And here's everything you get in there if you look at it all on one page. Lots and lots of value in the Agency Jumpstart course. Now, I have an extra bonus that I've never announced before, and I was teasing this before. I'm going to put this out there now. I have two offers that are exclusive to today's webinar, and actually just to the end of this week. So 2 more days on this first one, and then the other one's just for the webinar. So if you take action today, then I'm going to give you a new course that I'm developing called the Agency Sales Jumpstart. And it's a mini course. And this course is going to walk you through the process that I use to create my multi-million-dollar sales deck and how I generated millions of revenue as a rainmaker for my agency. And so we go into sales quite a bit in the Agency Jumpstart course. But many of you I know who are just wanting to get started off the ground and want to know how to bring in clients, we're going to do an intensive special course just for the people who sign up for the course this week. This is the only time, I believe, as of right now, this is going to be available in 2017. And so if you want to jumpstart your process and you want to learn how to sell agency services, and you want to learn how I did it, even getting down to the point where we're going to give you a sales deck template that you can use to put in your own numbers and your own case studies to show the results. This exclusive offer is available only this week. Basically, if you don't buy it by the end of the day of Friday in the US time, then you won't be able to get this bonus. I've never offered it before, and it goes away on Friday. So if sales is your concern right now, if you're wondering about sales and you're wondering, will this course be available in the future? Then basically, if you want to kickstart your sales, and that's the biggest concern you have, is if you don't want to start an agency because you don't know if you're going to be able to get business, we'll help you get there with this sales training. So this hopefully helps you get through that barrier if that's your barrier right now. If sales is your barrier, if you're not sure how to get clients, we will walk you through that. Now, all the bonuses alone, they're worth over $7,000. And that's not even including the course, forums, tools, and all the knowledge you're going to get out of this. But if you go to agencycourse.com/investment, you can pick it all up today for $1,997. Here's what you're going to get just on one page: lifetime access to the agency course, 44 HD video lessons, reminder emails. Every week you get a reminder about which lesson is coming up, private discussion forums. We've added this new one-on-one private forum where you can ask questions only of me, and we'll go back and forth throughout the next year, talking to each other about your business, insider tips for boosting your sales, downloadable workbooks and checklists, monthly coaching calls, unlimited access to all the videos, and that includes all the bonus materials. Now, there's an extra bonus that's time sensitive. It's for people who sign up during this webinar, and that is this. And I've never offered this before, and I'm not going to offer it again. It's only offered for the next 30 minutes, and I'm serious about that. And that is, I'll help you evaluate your sales process. So we'll have a 60-minute call to walk through either your sales pitch, prep for a client call, or even have me on the line for your next business development pitch, and I can critique it and tell you how you're doing from a business development perspective. Now, why is this valuable and why am I offering it? Well, one, I'm only offering it for 30 minutes because I can't get on a phone call with every single one of you. So I only want to reward those who are taking action, especially those of you who are concerned about sales being your weakest spot in what you're doing. I've been on over 1,000 sales calls, and that's not even just a number I'm pulling out. I did 5 sales calls a week for the 5+ years that I was at the office, at the desk of my agency. So for 5+ years, I was on 5 sales calls a week, talking to companies of every single shape and size, some of the biggest companies in the world, talking to them about their problems, talking to them about our solutions that we can provide them. And so I've gotten a lot of experience here. Started out working with a salesperson and sort of drafting off of their efforts. And then eventually I was the one doing the sales pitch myself. And I was going into businesses, and I learned so much along the way. And I want to teach you a lot of the secrets that I've learned in this process. How to make sure that people say yes more often, how to weed out the bad clients. Basically want to help you specifically with your sales process and to do some one-on-one time to go through it. And the reason why I'm only offering this for 30 minutes is because I can't do all of them, right? I don't have the time to get in and do a phone call with every single one of the people that ever want to take this course. So I'm rewarding those of you who take action on this call. Now, if you noticed on the webinar chat box, I did put out a call to action that you click on. If you click on that and you send me a note along with your receipt saying, Jeff, I want that call. I signed up today. We will get you a call scheduled and we'll walk through things. And you're going to love what results we get here because it's going to be very, very helpful for you. And now I'm doing this. I've done this with some of my beta members, people who took the course when we were in beta, and they're really liking what they're getting out of this. And I hope that it helps you as well. So how's everybody doing right now? Let's hear it in the chat. I'm going to leave this up here right now. I'm going to look at the chat quickly and see if there's any questions that I can help answer. I know I see a lot of questions that are coming in there, but this is what you're going to get if you invest in the Agency Jumpstart course. And if you do it during this webinar, then you will also receive the one-on-one sales coaching call where I'm going to tell you the things that I've learned over 1,000 calls selling agency services to companies of all shapes and sizes. Okay, so there's some good questions coming in. I will answer those in a second. Actually, that's what we're looking for, is questions. So I'm going to go through a few quick ones just in case those are on your mind. And you get this information for free on your own. As we said earlier, you can Google a lot of this stuff, but the information is conflicting and it's not industry specific. I've not seen a course out there from somebody who is specifically in the digital marketing, analytics, freelancing industry that has put together a course of this nature. So you can get information here and there, but you're gonna have to learn a lot of this on your own, or you're gonna have to learn from somebody who's done it before. And that's really what we're offering here. Is this only for PPC and SEO agencies? Actually, no. I mean, in our beta period, which we just wrapped up in February, we had somebody who was a video editor. We had somebody who had a creative agency. We had somebody who did web development, actually multiple people who did web development. We had people who were in the in SEO and in PPC and in analytics. We had all across the board people who were providing services, mostly in a digital form to other people. But everybody found value because this is not really focused on, what we're selling. It's focused on how do we sell it and how do we deliver solutions for our clients. Do you get ongoing support if you sign up for the course? Absolutely. You get the private one-on-one forum and the monthly coaching calls for an entire year when you sign up for the course. So you get that. Who else has taken the course? We had a beta period where we had a private beta. We opened up to 30 members and they really loved the course. And so they, like I said, they just completed it. And this is the first time this has been available to the public. And this is the first time we're going to make it available to the public, probably one more time, if that, by the end of 2017. But like I said, the bonuses will be different in 2017. We won't be focused. We may not be focused nearly as much on the sales aspect. We might have a different bonus that's out there. And so this is the best time if you're looking to jumpstart your sales and your overall agency process here. And will this offer be here tomorrow? Yes, it'll be here until Friday, but this thing goes away Friday at midnight. Bonuses go away. And I'm firm in saying that this, we might offer the course again in the future, but the way that we do it right now, it ends on Friday at midnight. And if you want the sales deck, then now is the time to sign up. So I'm going to leave this up there. There's the URL. You can go and go. Also, there's a little tout that's happening on the side. Now, several of you, looks like several of you have already jumped in there and gone through the process. So I thank all of you who have signed up already. Really cool to see that. And let's answer the questions that we have here. So I'm going to go from the bottom up. John wants to know, what is your number one strategy for feeling out a current client? How do you gauge happiness? Well, John, I think it depends on your relationship with the client. Have you met them in person before? Are your services high touch or low touch? Do you have a relationship with them? And are you providing something that they treat as highly skilled work or something that they consider to be a commodity? So if you're doing something that they consider to be low end or commodity work, then it's hard to gauge how they feel about it, because they probably feel like it's a commodity and really they just want a provider that it doesn't cause them trouble. If you're doing high end, high touch work, then one of those touch points should be getting feedback from them, basically asking them, how are we doing? Now, it's a lot easier to do that in person than it is to do it on the phone or through a video call, but there are ways to get that out. Basically, how are we doing? Or having somebody who's not involved with that client, maybe somebody who is, loosely assigned or working with them, have them get some candid feedback about how you're doing. Now, at our agency, we had enough people where we could have our VP of the company, who wasn't necessarily working on that client, talk to the client and just say, hey, I'm just doing a routine check-in about our agency. How are we doing? And they'd get candid feedback. And then that would come down to the teams that worked on the client, and we'd make adjustments as we needed to. And I think that was invaluable to get that level of feedback. The other thing we do, and this is a technique that we teach in the course, is walking the halls. We'd pay even our own money at certain times to go to see our clients, to walk their halls, to be there, to get FaceTime, to be the ones that they think of, to be top of mind whenever they needed something. And that paid tons of dividends in the end by just being in front of them. And so it depends on the nature of your business. If you want to share some more about what your business is, I can talk some more about it. Praveen loves doing analytics for his own business. Yeah, analytics for your business is pretty great. Praveen wants to know, what are some examples of recurring revenue that he can charge in his analytics business and how much per month? My analytics business involves making executive dashboards, multiple connectors, and website analytics of all types. What are some good niches in website analytics that is not crowded? I mean, I think that you need to walk through this on your own and start to figure out what competitive pricing is and what people will pay. I would say that I've seen businesses charge anywhere from $200 a month to $200,000 a month for this level of analytics. You know, you price it based on the value you deliver and also the cost that it would take for somebody to recreate that. So if they were to do that in-house, could they hire somebody to do the same thing as you? So often the sweet spot for an independent contractor or a freelancer or an agency is to be somewhere in between less than the cost of a full-time employee, but more than a piece of software that pledges to do it all for you. So you're basically taking software, you're taking what they're doing and you're adding value on top of it. So it's somewhere in between there. So you just have to figure out what they're paying for somebody to do that. If a cost of a data scientist is $100,000, then your price should be somewhere, less than that, spread out over 12 months. Hopefully that helps you out. How many services do I recommend? Looks like Marco and Derek are interested in that particular one. How many services do I recommend? I think that for one single person in a business, like one partner, you can do 1 to 3 services well. So if you have one individual who's an equity partner in the business, they can probably do 1 to 3 things pretty well. And if you have multiple other partners, you can keep on adding to that 1 to 3 number and get to that point. That's a rough estimate that I would say is good. I think people try to do a lot more than that, and then they end up being really good at some stuff and not nearly as good at other stuff, and then they alienate their clients and they lose clients as a result of offering too much. Now, just because it's revenue doesn't mean that it's good revenue, so just be careful with that. Will the course be offered in the future? We did mention this, Nishant. We will be offering it again probably by the end of 2017, one more time, but it won't be available in the same way, shape, or form that it has right here. Neil says he's looking forward to the course. Neil, yeah, thanks for signing up. Looking forward to having you in the class as well. John Cookson says, following up his gauging client happiness question for PPC management, how important is it to be local to your clients? As a negative, to be working remotely? We never had a problem working remotely. 95% of our PPC clients were remote. So we would be based in one area, Twin Cities, and people were all over the United States and in Canada. And we never once had a problem with that. I do think that different countries can be difficult because of understanding language barriers, understanding geography and that type of stuff. I think it is harder to break into an international market, but local as in within the same physical area, it's not really that important and never has been a factor for us. It does make seeing the clients more difficult. And so we would go to their annual conferences a lot of times where many of them are in one place, and we would talk to them, engage their interest and work with them. That seemed to be pretty effective for what we were doing. And so maybe that would be effective for you as well. Thoughts on personal branding versus an agency name, Derek asks. I think I personally would not, I consult under the name Jeffalytics right now. I would prefer that I didn't do that when I decided to do it. I think now it's not the best for an agency. I would rather have the agency named something that's not that way. And the reason why is it's actually good for original or initial branding to have your name in it and to get it there and to give a sense of identity. But if you want to add other partners, if you want to grow the business, if you want to sell it, having somebody's name might be more difficult. Now, that's not that big of a barrier, to be honest. Ultimately, the name is whatever, it's all about your reputation. So the initial name doesn't really matter that much. It's whether they want to work with you or not. I've seen a lot of agencies that were named after their founders get acquired and they just get absorbed by somebody else and it's not a big deal. And so usually very rarely does a name stick around forever in the agency business if you're looking to have your agency get acquired at some point in time. Now, acquisition of agencies is another thing we talk about in the course, talk about it pretty extensively. So if you're interested in that particular area, would love to hear your thoughts on it. All right, any more questions coming in? Keep your questions coming. I'll stick around for a little bit. That's the end of our overall area here. No problem, Derek. Thanks for sticking around. Okay, I don't see any more questions coming in, so I'm going to wind this thing down. Okay, I see some more coming in. John says, when pricing a client, do you do so based on budget, spend, or incentive-based goals? Yeah, I don't recommend pricing based on incentives or variable pricing. I found that it's difficult unless you're in a very specific industry. And when I say specific industry, I mean an industry where that's the standard performance marketing or being paid based on that. Or if there's some kind of revenue share where the money comes through you before it goes to the client. The reason why is because if you do really well, clients are very rarely going to pay you a percentage of their profits, or they structure it in a way that's odd. So I think that it sounds good to get paid based on an incentive or on a variable amount, but it's really difficult to cash flow your agency. Now, incentives, I guess, are a little bit different. You're saying based on, hitting a certain milestone, number of leads, that type of stuff. Also, that's difficult because you have to control for your clients. If your clients don't do their end, if they don't hold up their end of the bargain, they don't have good landing pages, they don't give you the assets that you need to succeed, then what ends up happening is your results aren't good. You're not hitting your numbers and it's completely out of your control because you've done everything right with your management of PPC, for example, and you've managed AdWords properly, but the landing pages just don't work, or they didn't put Google Analytics on their site. So you don't even know how it's performing. So you don't want to leave that you don't want to leave that variable in place. And so, yes, it would be great if clients were to pay you infinitely for all the work you did, but I haven't seen it work very well in practice. Nishant wants to know, how do I choose a profitable niche? And if I do, would I risk losing a client in another niche? Yeah, that's a good question. So choosing a profitable niche is basically working with several clients and then deciding which one works best for you. So if you work with 10 clients, it's finding out which one is the most repeatable, the one that's going to give you the most profitability and the most satisfaction. And so that's when you choose a niche, it doesn't mean you have to fire all your other 9 clients. If your 10th one is really good, you can phase them out, or you can keep the one that you like. Niching doesn't have to be 100% all in on one thing or the other. So you don't have to fire 9 clients because you have one good one. But what you do is all your future business development should be focused on that niche. It should be all focused and concentrated on that niche in the future. And so that's really the difference, I would say, between this, is that you don't need to fire somebody, but everything in the future should be aimed at that. And if something comes along that's too good to be true and it makes you money and it sounds right and the contract looks good and they're going to pay you or they're reputable, then there's no reason why you shouldn't take them on. But it's just a guideline, right? It's a simple guideline for where you should focus your business. And that's really meant to be for your outbound business development. And then inbound is inbound. Whatever comes inbound, you should consider it and see if it fits for your company. Awesome. Well, everybody, Jason, glad to hear you're in. Awesome. Shant, glad that you're enjoying it. Hey, everybody, this has been really awesome. I'm glad that you hopefully learned some of the things that I did the wrong way in my journey. And if you are looking at taking this path, this is an investment that I can, with 100% certainty, say is the right investment for you, because ultimately the stakes of starting an agency are, we're not talking thousands of dollars, we're talking hundreds of thousands to millions of dollars in revenues that agencies make. Even a small agency hits the $1 million mark pretty quickly in this process. And so if you want to grow revenues to a significant amount, then these are the types of investments that you can make in your future. And if you're not there yet, you don't feel like you're at the point where you can make the investment right now, we will be able to talk in the future. But for those of you who are like saying, hey, I want to get there, the sales bonus sounds awesome, everything that you're talking about makes a lot of sense to me, and this is the time to do it. Like I said, we start the coaching of the class, or we start the class on April 3rd. So that's next Monday. We start our next cohort, our next group of people who are going to go through the course. And then you're going to go through that for the next basically 12 weeks of learning, going through lessons. And then a year after that, or a total of a year of phone calls where you can talk to me and coaching calls and that type of stuff. So you have a lot, right? You have a lot to go through and get there. Now, if you wait until 6 months from now, then you're going to be 6 months behind everybody else who's on this call right now. And you just have to decide, do you want to wait 6 months from now? Now, if you're waiting for the time for this to be perfect, I will tell you that there's never a perfect time to jump into something. There's always something getting in the way. There's always some kind of consideration you need to make. So don't let perfect get in the way of good enough, because you'll be waiting for a long time. You won't be waiting until the next time this course is open. You're going to be waiting much longer than that. And I don't want to make people wait if they want to get to this point. And so if you're thinking about it within the next year, I would say now is a better time to do it than to wait 6 months for everything to be perfect. But I understand there's a lot of situations out there. And the reason why I make this course available with lifetime access to all the lessons, the reason why I do that is because I know that you're not going to be able to progress through every phase of your business in the course of a year, or even, a few months, or a year, or even 2 years. It's going to take a while to get to that point. Some things here aren't going to be relevant to you right away, but you got to start somewhere. And that's why I created it in this way. And that's why we make it available this way, because I want to be with you. I want to hear about your success 6 months from now. I want to hear about your success 6 weeks from now. And I want to hear about your success 6 years from now. And so that's the reason why we have it set up this way. But the reality is that I'm starting the course on Monday. And so I want a group of people in on Monday that I can concentrate, give my full attention to. And that's why we're making it only available through the end of this week, because I need to shut down the shopping cart over the weekend. I need to get everybody locked and loaded and ready to go. And then we start learning on Monday. And so hopefully some of you jump in. I'm going to look at the cart in just a moment here, but it sounds like a lot of you have already jumped in and are really enjoying what you learned here. And so I appreciate it. And I hope that everybody has a good rest of their day and a great weekend. And I hope that I see a lot of you on Monday in the Agency Jumpstart course.